You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. My name is Ronnie Cruz, your host for this adventure of healing. That's right, healing, which actually, now that I think about it, I think that'll go very well with the topic of today. We are going to be diving into Kenobi Part 5, but I say healing because it has been a process this past week and a half. Since everything that happened, and yeah, I mean, obviously it takes time. I wish it didn't take as much time, but it takes as much time as it needs to take, right? The healing process, the grieving process, and so I appreciate all of you. For number one, all the support and all the kind messages and the love and the force and the light and the life that all of you have taken the time to send myself and my sister through this grieving process. It's really it's quite remarkable. It gives me a strength, number one, and it also gives me a warmth in my heart to know that all of you out there care, right? I think that's really important, and so for each other, I think it just speaks to the I don't know. I think I will always believe in the goodness of the human spirit, and again, all of you who reached out during this time have really proven that again, and so thank you all for allowing us, for the support, and then allowing me the space to share that vulnerability with all of you on the episode last week. It is a process. And I think, again, going into today's topic, it's so important to where all our characters are in the show, right? In Kenobi, especially by the time we get to part 5. It's remarkable. It really is remarkable. Lots of things happen. Okay, so let's go ahead and just dive right into it. I absolutely love this episode, and I know I say that every time. It's just so good. The show is so good. I love that. Number one, we get to see Hayden not in the Darth Vader outfit, right? So we get to see that Anakin, which is really, really nice in the flashback. Oh, wait a minute. So before I get into this, if you haven't seen Obi-Wan yet, go ahead and watch Obi-Wan. There will be spoilers in today's episode, because it's impossible at this point to talk about it, to talk about the themes that's in this episode without mentioning specifics. So please, if you haven't seen it yet, I don't want to spoil things for you. So hit pause on the podcast, go watch Kenobi up to at least part 5, and then you can dive back into the show. Okay, so now that you're back, what I was talking about was the flashback scenes, right? The intercut that's intercut throughout the entire episode. It's awesome to see Hayden as Anakin again, and it's awesome to see Anakin and Obi-Wan in that interaction. This is back when Anakin was still a Padawan. I would assume pre Clone Wars. And they're doing combat training. They're doing the lightsaber duels, and as this is intercut throughout the entire episode, it really is a great, beautiful juxtaposition between the past and the present. Especially now that Darth is in pursuit of Obi-Wan, it gives so much more depth and layers to what's happening in the present moment, it's beautifully done. This episode is absolutely amazing. This entire show has been amazing, and it's just so well done. Again, really nice to see Hayden as Anakin, and it's just such a great reference point to give us more information in terms of what's happening in the present time. We also get more information on Reva, guys, right? Like, you guys, I think if you've been listening to the show, I absolutely love Reva. So more Reva is always good. I am Team Reva all the way. And so we get her backstory. We finally get, pull the curtain back, and get to understand Reva and why she's doing what she's doing. Where did she come from? Why is she so angry? Why is she so intent on hunting down Obi-Wan? And we find out that she's not actually hunting down Obi-Wan. She is, but he's not the final end goal for her. Everything that she's been doing was actually to get closer to Darth Vader, because and I had suspected that this little tidbit, I didn't know to what extent, but it's because she was a Jedi. Well, she was a youngling at the temple. So we get that flashback and that information, that backstory of Reva, that she was actually one of the younglings that we saw at the beginning of the show. At the very beginning, episode 1 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, we see the younglings, and we see this. The Jedi Temple pretty much is under siege, and these younglings have to fight and work to survive, and she's the only one that made it out. And so she's been harboring and holding on to this trauma, which, naturally, why, she was a child. And to go through such a traumatic event, the way she then processed it, having seen everybody around her get killed, having to pretend to be killed herself in order to survive, the way she processed that was anger, right? And blame. And resentment and all these things that are now driving her and motivating her actions, which is ultimately to get revenge on Anakin. And that's why she knew Anakin. I was wondering, how does she know that Darth Vader is Anakin? And that's why, because she was there when he came and killed all her friends, right? So to everything that she's done has been to get revenge on Anakin for doing what he did. And she's also incredibly angry, and blames Obi-Wan as well, because where was he, right? He's the great Obi-Wan. In her mind, why wasn't he there to protect them? Why wasn't he there to stop Anakin, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, obviously she only knows her version of the story because of what she experienced. But again, she's processed that into the anger and the resentment and the blame, right? And that's driving her. Again, very, very much in line with what I opened with in this episode is healing, right? Is healing. Yes, the past, and again, this is actually going to tie into 2 episodes ago when I talked about Obi-Wan letting go of the past, right? So that he can move forward. Especially with trauma, there needs to be healing. Yes, the past happened, and we can't necessarily let go of things that happen. You can't change the past, right? As I mentioned with Obi-Wan 2 episodes ago, you can't change the past, but what you can let go of is the definitions and the narratives that you're holding on to about the past, because those things can be let go. You can reframe and redefine how you feel and how you think about the past events, and therefore how you feel about it, how you process it, how you digest it. And Reva very much needs to do this. Well, actually, honestly, everybody needs to go through this, right? This healing process. I think the characters that we're really focusing on, so many of them have gone through this trauma with the Empire. Whether it's Order 66 or realizing the Empire is bad news, there needs to be this level of healing and using, being able to reframe past events, so that it's no longer destructive, right? So that you can kind of move on and heal and process, right? Again, with Reva, I think she's on this path of self-destruction. Because of how, and again, in all fairness, because of the trauma, but it's how she's processed that trauma, right? By the end of the episode, what we end up seeing is that, yes, Darth Vader actually was already suspicious of her and already knew, and so did the Grand Inquisitor, who we find out wasn't actually dead, right? So this path that she's on, because of how, again, because of how she has processed that trauma and turned it into anger and resentment and blame and therefore revenge, it's led to her self-destruction, right? So they pretty much trapped her. They left her. Well, I think they left her for dead, but she just had a strong will to live. It was, I think, an inevitable outcome. Yeah. When past events like those traumas that she experienced aren't properly processed, and well, no healing ever happens, right? Whereas you take the character like Tala, right? Tala Dureth actually has an amazing quote in this episode, and she says, "Yes, you're right." When she's talking to Obi-Wan, she has a moment with him, and she says, "You're right, Obi-Wan. We can't forget the past." Like I said, right? Like we can't change things that happen to us, but what she said was, we can fight to make things better, right? And so, like, she's used her past traumas in a healthy way to help make amends, to help fix things, right? She uses her past traumatic events, and the framework, the narrative that she has around those things is, okay, let it motivate me, put me into action to helping people escape the empire, and helping do what I can to overthrow this regime. So she's processed it well. I mean, obviously there's the conflict and the battle and all that stuff, but that's just part of war. But I think she's processing it has processed the trauma in a much healthier and empowering way that isn't focused on necessarily hurting the people that caused the trauma in the past, right? Like that's just getting stuck in the past, right? Like with Reva, she's getting stuck in the past because she's so focused on hurting the people that hurt her, right? And so no healing can ever come from that. Whereas Tala, she says, yes, we can't forget the past, but we can use it. We can fight to make things better. So she's using it to move forward, right? Like she's using the motivation from her past to move forward, to make things better moving forward, as opposed to trying to inflict hurt and harm on the ones that might be responsible for those traumas, right? Right. Yeah. It's two different ways of processing, I guess. I mean, I don't want to say the same traumas. Like with Tala Dureth, it's a different experience, right? We all go through different experiences with trauma, but the healing really, really rests on the story, the narrative, the definitions, what you're telling yourself, and how you think about the past events. Again, we can't change the past; they already happened. Unless you're talking about like, multiverse and different timelines, right? Right? But we're not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're in Star Wars. We can't change what happened in the past, but you can change how you think about it. And therefore you can start to change how you feel about it, and therefore you can begin a healing process, right? A healing process. Now, obviously, if you've been through some really major traumas in your life, seek help. And hopefully, I would hope that if you are or have experienced past traumas that are really affecting your life today, and you hear today's show, you hear this message, I hope that you do decide to do that, because again, like it's very hard to live life holding on to those things, right? Holding on to things that just anchor us to the trauma, as opposed to allowing us to be free of it. Not to say that they didn't happen, but to reframe it in a way that we can move on and heal, right? I think it's incredibly important. So many of us, Well, I think we all hold on to some sort of trauma, one way or another, right? And you know, I've been listening to a lot of Gabby Bernstein recently, and her book Happy Days is actually it's a remarkable book. She talks about little micro traumas, right? Little things that we hold on to from our past, and we hold on to them negatively, and that informs and affects our present, right? And I guess that's the worst thing that could happen, right? Letting those past traumas affect the quality of our present, right? If we don't process them well, and we can't heal, and yeah, the present moment, which is all we have, end up being, you know, yeah, the quality of the present moment ends up being affected by it. So, yeah, seek out help, guys. If and gals, excuse me, y'all, you all, if you're listening to this again, and you have experienced trauma, no matter at what level, seek out help. Seek out help. I'm not a professional. I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed anything. I'm just a guy that's really into personal development because. Well, yeah, because you know, I've lived enough life, and I've wanted to help myself process some things, and again, if you need help, reach out, reach out. There's so many ways of doing it. I'm not even like an affiliate with them, but I'm hearing about. I haven't used them yet, but I'm hearing about that BetterHelp service, which everybody's been raving about. So reach out to something like that. It doesn't have to necessarily be an in-person situation where you're sitting on a, you know, we all have this image of therapy being on a soft cushy chair, and you know, the doctor with the notepad sitting and asking you questions. It doesn't have to be that, right? Like there's many different ways of getting help, but I think as long as you do that, well, that's the first step, right? Realizing and acknowledging that you could use some help, and then seeking it out, right? Seeking it out. That's I think the those are the first steps to a road of healing, a path of healing. Well, as a matter of fact, I did. So Gabby Bernstein, who many of you probably know, and in case you don't, she's a world-renowned self-help author. She has an amazing podcast called Dear Gabby, and so I actually I decided to write to her, which ends up, of course, she has a team, but yeah, to talk about my grief, right? To talk about the process and everything I'm going through. I just needed to share with somebody that I don't know. I felt compelled to do it, and they got back to me as amazing with a bunch of resources and you know, like a very, very kind email that they said, you know, like they send their condolences, and it's just like, even if it's just that, just reaching out. It makes a huge difference. Again, it's as long as you're taking steps on a path of healing, you'll get there. You'll get there. You will. But you just have to take those first steps, right? And so, if nothing else, I hope that this episode and this show in general, Path of the Jedi, help you take those first steps to healing, because it is so important. It is so important to do that, because, well, like I said, the quality of the now, the quality of your present moment, it can be drastically improved if we allow ourselves to heal. All right, well, that is going to do it for today. What do you guys think? What's on your mind, right? You know, healing is very, very important. As I mentioned, I think we all experience some sort of trauma, large or small. And the ability to lean on each other is something that I think we as a species have that makes us unique, right? Like we're a human family, and I will always believe in the goodness of humankind. And I want to be there. So that's why I always say, reach out, guys, if there's anything that you need, if there's anything that you want to discuss, especially if there's things that you want perspective around, right? If there's something that you might be going through. Again, I know I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed in anything. I'm just a guy who loves Star Wars, who loves personal development. But if I can help you at least take the first steps towards healing, and therefore a much happier and healthier present moment, then I'm happy to do it. So please reach out with anything that's on your mind. The email, of course, is info@pathofthejedi.com. You can, you can write an email and let me know what's on your mind, or you can leave me an MP3 as well if you're okay with it getting played on the show. Let me know though in the message whether or not you're okay with letting it, me discussing it on the show. I won't necessarily, of course, name names or name you specifically or all that stuff. All that stuff will be kept confidential, the details. But it could perhaps, sometimes it's nice to hear an answer on the show. I definitely, when I reached out to Gabby Bernstein and her team, I was definitely in the back of my mind hoping, well, maybe it's something that she would post a quick message about on her socials, or maybe do something on her podcast, right? I mean, of course, I knew that the chances were slim, but it still kind of made me hopeful that she would. I did, as I mentioned, I did get an amazing reply from her team, so I'm not complaining at all. I know she's got millions and millions of people that reach out to her every day. With me, I mean, we're a small operation, so chances are I will get your message. No, not chances are. I will definitely get your message, and if you want to hear the response on the show, just let me know in the email. I'm happy to do that, or I'll respond directly. Whatever you need of me, I just want to be there for you, to help you heal in any way, shape, or form that I can. Right? That's really why I started this podcast. I wanted to be able to share my perspective to help people get through whatever it is that they're going through. Right? All right. So again, reach out to me. The email is info@pathofthejedi.com. Of course, you got me on the socials, Twitter and Facebook. It's POTJ Podcast. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Cannibal Ron. Cannibal, like man-eater. Yeah, long story. I'll explain it some other time. But it's Cannibal Ron on Instagram. On TikTok, it's Ronnie's Big Adventure. I haven't been as active in the past week or so, week and a half, because of everything that's going on. But I'm usually pretty active on those platforms I post. I'm getting back into the groove. I definitely needed some time away from all of that, but I'm getting back. I'm starting to get back into the groove with those. So yeah, just reach out, man. Reach out. That is, as I mentioned earlier, it's the first step. It's the first step to healing. So yeah. Again, it's POTJ Podcast on Facebook and Twitter, and the email is info@pathofthejedi.com. And now it's time, of course, for the shout out. Okay, this week's shout out goes to a couple of things that I actually wanted to celebrate this week. First, I want to celebrate my dogs. My dogs are amazing, and of course, we lost Mambo the other week. Definitely want to celebrate him. I love from Dalai Lama. He always encourages to celebrate instead of mourn at someone's passing, and I as difficult as it is, I definitely agree with him. And it's because we had 15 and a half, almost 16 actually, amazing years with Mambo. So I'm going to take this opportunity to celebrate and shout out my boy. I got to try to think back and remember and celebrate all the wonderful years that we had. And I know that everybody that met him absolutely fell in love with him immediately. He was just that kind of a dog. One of my nephews, when they were texting us, said, yeah, Mambo was legend. And he's absolutely right. Mambo was legend. He's an instant hit with everyone that he met. So definitely shout out to Mambo. Shout out to my other dogs, my 4 other dogs. Got Nugget, who is also 16. I got Little Miss. She is 14, I want to say. Man, we got some old dogs, but they're super healthy. We've got, of course, Shadow and Kylo Ren, the baby of the family. So they've been amazing through this process, keeping us company. I think, I don't know, maybe I'm just projecting, but I feel like they sense that their brother is missing. And so I'm sure it's an adjustment for them as well, but they've been really good with us. It's been hard to be fully attentive and present this past week and a half, and they've just been so patient, which is like the gift of dogs, right? Like no matter what we're going through in our lives, if you have pets, if you have a dog in your family, you will understand. Like the dogs are really just a blessing. Like it's just there's no I don't know. There's just no words to describe how amazing dogs are to the human species. And so my shout out to Mambo, my boy, the legend, and of course to my 4 other dogs. And okay, so the second shout out, so that's the first shout out. The second shout out is to each and every one of you who sent messages, who continue to check up on my sister and I during this time. It is still very fresh. It is still very hard and difficult. It's so weird. I like, honestly, I didn't expect to be affected as deeply as I am, but you can never, I guess you can never expect that, right? You can never prepare on how your spirit, your heart, your body will respond to that kind of loss. And so those of you who have reached out, and you know who you are, I want to say thank you for being there, for support. I haven't necessarily responded back, but just knowing that all of you are out there thinking of us and sending your love and your support, and sending us the force and light and life and all that goodness. It really, honestly, it did help ease the burden. It really did. So I want to thank each and every one of you who took the time to do that, and say, yes, I love you, I appreciate you. This shout out goes to you. Okay, so that's going to do it for this week, guys. Tune in next week. We are finally closing out Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's been a heck of a ride, and I really feel, oh man, what an amazing journey. So I got a chance to finally finish the series, just the other night, and so I'm ecstatic. I'm really excited to jump in and cover that episode for next week. So don't forget to tune in. We're going to be here with a fresh new episode next week. So until then, please be well, be safe, and may the Force be with you.